So we left off the last video talking about how you can avoid genetically modified foods in the grocery store if you so desire. Another way that you can avoid genetically modified foods is by buying heirloom seeds. So heirloom actually means that the seeds that you buy, the plant that grows, will be the exact duplicate of the plant that your grandmother used, and her mother, so on and so on. So heirloom seed, the plant that grows from heirloom seed, has to be the same characteristics for at least 3 generations. So then it can be considered an heirloom. So we call that open pollinated. This term right here, open pollinated. That means, and it's a strange term because I don't really know why we would say open pollinated, but that is the term. And what that means is that the offspring are the same characteristics as the parents, and they have been for at least 3 generations. So open pollinated means that the offspring has the same characteristics of the parents. That way you're getting a really reliable crop. So heirloom crops can never be genetically modified. So if you don't want that, if you buy some heirloom squash, then you know you're getting a really good squash, the same squash that your great-grandmother made her squash casserole out of. So they can never be genetically modified, so you're safe there. Sorry, somebody's texting me, so if y'all hear that, sorry. A couple other things that are really good about heirloom is because these have been around for generations, people kind of tend to weed out the things that don't taste good or don't grow well. So these tend to have really, really good taste. And they also tend to be very nutritious. They're grown mainly in local areas, not shipped across the country. First of all, they don't have any genetic modifications to make them last longer in shipping. So they're going to usually stay local. Your garden, your neighbor's garden, the small farm down the road, whatever. So they're grown locally, eaten locally. So they're going to be fresh. You're usually going to get a lot fresher food when you buy heirloom products or grow your own heirloom. The other thing about heirloom being local is that you're not going to buy heirloom seeds from somebody who grows out in Washington State. You're going to grow plants, crops that have been grown in this area, your local area, for generations. And because of that, those crops have natural pest and drought resistance. They have natural resistance and adaptations to your area. So natural pest resistance, not genetically modified resistance. That's the other. So, when you hear people say, eat local, there's more advantages to it than just supporting your local economy. You actually are probably getting fresher food that's actually adapted to your area, so people aren't having to use as many pesticides, and that have a great taste because they've been around. The other thing is they don't ripen all at once. Now, just like the local, not being able to ship far away because they just don't have that long-lasting ability to stay ripe for a long time, they're going to rot. They're going to get to the ripeness and then start to rot if they're not eaten right away. Sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. So this don't ripen all at once sounds kind of like a bad thing. Well, for farmers, for commercial farmers, the fact that these would not ripen all at once is a bad thing because they're trying to grow efficiently, trying to get out there one time and get all the crop up one time, not today and tomorrow and the next day and 3 days later. But for us, it's like how many things do you want at one time? I mean, it's already hard enough to can a bunch of tomatoes at one time that ripen all at once. So, you may want a tomato next week and you can just go out, keep it on the vine, and next week there's going to be a tomato for you because you've got stuff growing not all at once, not designed to grow all at once, but naturally a little at a time. So that's actually a pro for heirloom. So this is how you can grow your own food and make sure it's not genetically modified. The other thing is, if you grow heirloom, you're going to be able to survive the zombie apocalypse, okay? Because when you grow heirloom, it's open pollinated, all right? The seed is the same every generation, which means that you can save your seeds. You can save your pumpkin seeds, and you can plant them next year, and you're going to get, as long as you store them properly, you're going to get the exact same pumpkin, okay? And then you can save those seeds. So you have to buy these seeds one time, and as long as you save and store the seeds from them properly, you're going to continue to get crops indefinitely. Okay, so this is different than hybrid crops. So let's go into hybrid. Just remember, in the back of your head, if you want to survive the zombie apocalypse, spend $1 or $2 extra on your seeds and get the heirloom seeds. All right. Now, when we're talking about genetically modified seeds, you have to buy those every time. The farmers have to buy those every single year. So here's something that happened in a third world country. Is they were growing food, and then somebody said, hey, use these genetically modified seeds because they're more drought resistant. You're going to get a better crop and be able to feed more people, feed the children. So they said, sure, we'll get this genetic. And oh, I forgot, they're going to give them the seed, okay, the first time. So they gave them the seeds, and they said, sure, we're going to try this. It grew really well. Well, guess what happened then? The next year, they didn't give them the seeds anymore. Next year, they have to buy the seeds. And the next year, they have to buy the seeds. Because your genetically modified crops are not open pollinated. You can't plant the seeds from that and get another reliable crop. Okay? It may not grow at all anything. So you can't just indefinitely plant. All right. So that's sort of similar with hybrids. So hybrids means to breed one species to another species to get an offspring. Now, they have to be close. So if y'all have ever seen a mule is actually a cross between a horse and a donkey, and you get a mule. Now, the mule has hybrid vigor. Y'all know I like to use horse references. It just makes sense. Hybrid vigor. That's a term you need to be familiar with. So hybrid vigor means the offspring is superior to both parents. All right. In the case of the mule, mules are stronger than horses and donkeys. Pound for pound with their muscle, they actually are stronger. They're hardier. They don't get sick as often. They have tougher hooves. So they have hybrid vigor. The offspring is superior to both of the parents. That's hybrid vigor. Here's the flip side, the downside. Mules are sterile. Mules cannot have offspring anymore. You can have the most fantastic mule in the world. You love it so much. You can't breed it because they're sterile. Okay. So the two species have to be close enough together that they can actually have an offspring. But the problem is, because you learned already that DNA, all species don't have the same number of chromosomes. So they'll be off just a little bit. They'll be off a half a chromosome or something. So there's just the chromosomes will come together and make an offspring, but it's just weird enough, just one off, that they can't breed. All right. With plants are similar. You have hybrid vigor with plants. So if you get a crop and it's a hybrid, it's two species that have been bred together, which absolutely can happen in nature, okay? They could do that in a lab, but it can happen in nature. You're going to get hybrid vigor, so the offspring is going to be sweeter, juicier, just delicious. It's going to ripen faster. It's going to be wonderful, whatever. Prettier color. But if you plant the seeds from that hybrid, you're going to get... what's the word for unpredictable? You're going to get unpredictable offspring. So in other words, it's not going to be like the open pollinated where it's the same crop. You're going to get unpredictable offspring. You might take this wonderful, big, sweet, juicy, whatever, tomato, but then you plant the seeds from the tomato and you get something really totally different. Not sweet, wrong, wrong shape, wrong color, whatever. So you're going to have unpredictable offspring. And then if you plant the seeds from those unpredictable offspring, they're just going to lower in their fertility until you get no plant whatsoever. So your very first generation is your F1. Your F1 has the hybrid vigor. If you plant the seeds from the F1, you get unpredictable offspring. If you plant the seeds from those, you get unpredictable offspring and lower fertility. All right. So that's why if you're using a hybrid, you're going to have to go, which can occur in nature and can be a good thing, but you're going to have to go back to the store over and over again every year to buy those same wonderful seeds. All right. Because they have bred the same parents together over and over again to get F1, and you're planting an F1 generation every single time. You can't save the seeds from those. You can, but you're going to get unpredictable offspring and lower fertility. So if you want to survive the zombie apocalypse, get you some heirloom seeds that are open pollinated. So hopefully y'all know the difference. You're understanding the difference between the hybrid vigor, the heirloom, the genetically modified. So genetically modified cannot occur in nature, right? We're taking the DNA or RNA from one thing and putting it into another thing. All right. Hybrid can occur in nature. It's just breeding two different species that are close enough to breed, but they're just going to, the offspring's just going to be one off with their chromosomes, okay? And your example would be a mule, or there's plenty of plants that are delicious hybrids, but you just have to buy them every year. All right, I'm going to end this video now because that's a lot of information to sink in. Come to the next video. The next video will be video D, and we're going to talk about wheat a little bit more. All right, the wheat that is so highly hybridized that in a lab that it could not actually occur in nature. That's our one sort of an example of a crop that has been hybridized that couldn't occur naturally. All right, I'll take a break and I'll see you in the next video.